Hi, welcome to Elizabeth's Kind Cafe. Today I am here with Matt Roman. Matt works on environmental issues for Vestion Corporation, but today we're going to be discussing what he does in his personal life to make his home life a little greener. Welcome, Matt.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Thanks for being here. So I wanted to talk a little bit about what you're doing at your home as far as alternative sources of energy.
Certainly. About 3 or 4 years ago, when we first moved into the house that we live in now, I had been wanting to do something with alternative energy, be it solar power or some other form such as wind power. And so started going through my house, and I think one of the misconceptions a lot of people have, number one, is that alternative energy such as solar power won't work in Michigan because we don't have as much sunlight as places such as out west.
Right.
And I kind of, in the work I do in my day job, I was familiar with alternative energy and how much energy homes and industries use. So I felt like we had a chance to make it work at my house. But the first thing I knew that I had to do was to make my house more efficient. Just like in my day job, that's part of my profession, is to help make the company more efficient in how it makes products.
What kinds of things can you do at your home to make it more efficient?
So what I did, along with the help of my wife and my kids, was the easiest thing that we did was to obviously change out our light bulbs. So when we first moved into the house, there was all incandescent light bulbs, which use probably on average about 3 to 4 times more energy than compact fluorescent lights. At the time we converted our light bulbs over, they weren't quite as nice as they are today. Today, you can get compact fluorescent bulbs that are dimmable, that fit any kind of fixture. And so over the course of a year or two, as old light bulbs burnt out, we were putting in renovations in our house, so we equipped the newly renovated areas with compact fluorescent bulbs.
And did your wife notice a difference at all in the way the house looked, or?
I don't think so. Her favorite thing that she used to like to do was when we had recently done a basement renovation, and so she would take people down there, and at the time I had some older compact fluorescent bulbs that used to take a minute or two to warm up and get bright, and so she'd always make the comment about that when she brought guests over, much to my annoyance. But we finally got the more modern bulbs today. I mean, it's barely noticeable at all. You turn them on and they come on instantaneously.
And can we just talk about real quick disposal
Sure.
of the bulbs? Because I know some people are maybe put off because they hear that, if it breaks, there's mercury and. Right.
So the compact fluorescent bulbs do have traces of mercury. They're very low levels of mercury. When bulbs like that need to be disposed of, you shouldn't throw those in your regular garbage. But what they do have widely available in most communities are collection points. So for example, in our area, we have Southern Oakland County Resource Recycling Association offers a place. The particular location I go to is on Coolidge Road, and they offer a place where you can take your bulbs, and most cities have this available to you, where you can dispose of similar to how you would dispose of your batteries, lead acid batteries from your home safely, or some of your paints and things like that.
And if it falls and it breaks, it's not like mercury is flying all over the place.
Correct.
It's
yeah,
just contained.
The mercury is contained
right.
within the fixture part, which normally if the bulb breaks or smashes, it's not as much of a danger as, say, a mercury thermometer.
So you did the light bulbs, and then did you have to change your appliances, or?
Indeed, I did. We were fortunate or unfortunate, depending on how you look at it. When we moved in, we needed new appliances, and so what I made sure was that we were picking appliances that had, a helpful thing would be, for example, an ENERGY STAR rating. And so I did a lot of research on what appliances worked well from an energy perspective and still served the purposes that we needed. So that was refrigerator, microwave, dishwasher, and so those are the big, refrigerator, dishwasher, microwave are the big energy users in your house. And also the house formerly had, for example, an electrically heated dryer, and so we switched that over to natural gas, which is more efficient.
Okay. So you did the bulbs, you did the appliances, anything else to make your house more efficient?
Yeah, this is the one that usually my friends used to tease me about. So those are the big hitters, is the types of things I just described, the appliances and the light bulbs. But what happens in a lot of cases, especially now that a lot of houses are wired for new technologies, and we also have a lot of electronic gadgets in our homes, cell phones, right, iPods, iPads, computers. What tends to happen in a lot of cases is, for example, it's becoming a little more popular to hear about now, is that all of these items, even when they're not actively charging your iPhone or your iPod, they're still drawing energy.
Right.
And so what I started to do, I have tools available to me through my work that I can actually measure individual loads for things such as this.
Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah, so you kind of act as a little energy detective, and you can go around your house and figure out what's...
You're making everybody crazy in the house, right?
Well, I hope not, but yeah, sometimes it works out that way. And so I was able to use these devices to go through and measure what was actually drawing electricity when we weren't even using it, when we didn't have it on. And some of the surprising things are, we'd always had an old television and old stereo equipment in our basement. And we kept those plugged in, but even when they're off, they were drawing a significant amount of energy. And just to give you an example, the TV and stereo equipment that I had, it was using about the same amount of energy as a 50-watt light bulb, just kept on all the time, 24 hours a day. And so what I started to do was buy these little, they're just inexpensive little remote control devices that allow you to plug your whatever you want that uses energy, plug it into this device, and then plug the device into the wall, and you can shut these off with a remote control. And so at night, or when we're not using this, from anywhere in the house, I can just turn this device off, and it will cut the power usage, so it's not drawing any energy when we're not using it.
And is that something only you have access to because of your...
No, these are actually, you can buy these for, you can buy 3 of these, and the name of the particular device escapes me, but Meijer and Walmart have these. They're as cheap as $14, and they're basically just remote control plugs, they call them.
Amazing. And your friends give you a hard time about that. I think that's great.
Well, yeah, but they think I'm a little too into it. It's fine.
So it took you about a year to do all of this, or?
Yeah, it took me
I mean, things had to run their natural course of light bulbs going out.
Right, and I wanted to do it in a way that you know, I thought that most people would have to do it. Most people don't have the means to just, you know, suddenly go out and buy all new appliances and all new bulbs and retrofit this all at once. So I kind of did it piecemeal over time to make sure that you know, we weren't having to go out and take out a loan in order to accomplish this. So.
And then once you accomplished that, then when you started looking at different alternative energy sources, you looked at solar, and you also mentioned wind. So
right, wind power here in Michigan, I had done some studies because for work we were looking at different plants all around the world. So I was familiar where the good locations would be to install wind power. And although there are some good locations in Michigan, such as in the Thumb area and also on the western side of the state, here in southeast Michigan, it's really not an ideal place in terms of how much wind would be available throughout the year on average. And so then I started to look at solar, and based on what I knew my house, the amount of energy that my house used, I thought that I had a very good case to make it work. And so then it was just a matter of waiting for the right time to see when the alternative energy like solar would become affordable.
Okay, and so now you decided solar's the way to go, and what was the catalyst that?
It actually worked out very well. Just about the time that I finished doing all of my retrofits and starting to take a look at what I wanted to do and deciding on solar, the state of Michigan came out with the Renewable Portfolio Standard, which is a requirement that all of the utilities in Michigan have to derive a certain percentage of their electricity generated from alternative sources. And so that eventually led to a program where most utilities now offer some stronger incentives to get customers to switch over to alternative power. And the particular program that I learned about was called Solar Currents, and it's offered by DTE Energy. That's the utility provider in my area.
Okay, so we're gonna take a short break, and then when we come back, we're gonna talk a little bit more about how you implemented that, the costs involved, and let everyone else know if that's an option for them. So we'll be right back.
2 words for you. Pop quiz. Ready? Name any funny movie. A drama. Name a mystery. And one more thing. Name the movie your kids saw today in science class.
Know what really matters. Know about your kid's school. And know about your kid. Find out 100 ways to know more, do more.
Hi, welcome back to Elizabeth's Kind Cafe. I'm Elizabeth Katzman, and we are joined again by our guest, Matt Roman. Matt, thanks for being with us.
Certainly.
And I wanted to continue talking about your current use of solar energy and how you got there. So when we ended off, you decided that you chose solar energy for your house, and DTE had a program that you decided to utilize.
Correct. The program was called Solar Currents, and I believe they started it in September of 2009, which was right around the time I was ready to have it installed at my house. And so the program actually is a very nice program because it helps you defray some of your upfront costs, which is usually one of the big obstacles when people are looking at solar.
And for you, what was the estimate for your upfront cost?
So I got a quote, and my particular house was ready for, the size of the unit is obviously what impacts the price the most. And the size of my system was about 2.3 kilowatts. And for that size of system, it was going to be about $15,000 to install it.
And how could DTE help you with that?
So what DTE does is they offer a rebate program where if you have it installed and certified and you enter an agreement with DTE to sell back the extra energy to them. So in other words, the energy that your panels might be producing but not using at your house, you can send it back to the grid, and that's referred to as net metering. So if you agree to enter into a contract with them to sell them back the energy, they'll offer you a rebate of $2.40 for each watt that you install. So in the case of my system, which was 2,300 watts, that amounted to about a little over $5,500.
Wow, that's big savings.
Yeah, it's significant. And then there was also a 30% federal tax credit that's available every year for anyone who installs these types of systems as well. And so when you add those two rebates together, that amounts to over $10,000 in rebates. So for my particular system, that meant that at the end of the day, my system only cost me a little over $5,000 to purchase the solar photovoltaic panels and have them installed.
And do you think you'll be able to make that money back by selling extra energy back, or?
I will. Part of the program for DTE, as I mentioned, you sell them the extra energy that you might not be utilizing at your particular house through net metering. DTE pays you 11 cents for every kilowatt hour of electricity that you generate from the panels by itself, regardless of where it goes. And then if you end up sending that particular energy back to the electrical grid instead of using it at your house, they pay you an additional 10 to 11 cents depending on what the rates are each month. So if I'm producing electricity and sending it back to the grid, they pay me as much as 21 cents. Whereas if I'm using energy from DTE, it only costs me about 15 cents on average.
Yeah, I just think that's so amazing because I think most people, especially in the Midwest and the area that we live in, I don't think, number one, they would think that solar power was an option because of the sun exposure we have, but there is plenty of sun for solar power. And the price, I would think, would be a barrier. But we're hearing now that it's an option for us.
Yeah, with these rebates, they make it actually very viable. I think one of the things is that when people take a look at how much energy their house uses and then look at the cost of trying to purchase solar panels to cover that amount of usage, they do get sticker shock, but I think one of the things you have to do is take a look at how can you make your house a little bit more efficient first, and then once you've trimmed that extra energy usage off of your bills, then take a look at what it might cost you with this program.
Right. So I think that what you've shown us today is really a good model for people to go through their homes, first swap out the light bulbs or swap them out as they burn out. Mm-hmm. And if your appliances are getting old and you're in the market for a new one, go for the energy efficient.
Right, and the government actually makes it much easier today than it did 10 years ago in terms of providing information to people, consumers, about the products that they're buying. So the Department of Energy has plenty of information. If you're buying a new flat screen TV, you can find out, even at the stores now, how much energy they use when they're on, but also how much energy they use when they're off.
Right.
Because even though they're off, they're still using energy to keep internal clocks running and things like that.
Right. Okay, so congratulations to you, because I think that's amazing, and I'm excited that we're getting that information out there. I also want to talk about something else that you're doing in the community, which is pretty amazing. Right now, community-supported agriculture and home gardening and all of these things are becoming more popular, eating local. And not everybody has this available in their own area, but you've started in Beverly Hills something that I think would be interesting to a lot of the residents around here. Could you tell us a little bit about what you're doing?
I certainly could. About a year and a half ago, I was sitting down trying to think of some sort of activity that we could have in the community that would sort of bring young and old together. We have a very nice city park in the city of Beverly Hills that's very well utilized. It has playgrounds for kids. There's baseball diamonds there for the summertime. But I wanted to do something that I thought could sort of bring the community together more in an activity where, regardless of age, you could participate, or regardless of economic means, you could participate. And I'd had a garden at my house for a number of years. And my other passion was, trying to teach my kids a little bit more about where their food comes from. I think that's been a little bit lost on my generation, and the next generation is understanding where their food actually comes from.
You're right, absolutely.
And how it gets created. And so that's been a passion of mine, is trying to teach, pass what little knowledge I might have on to my kids about how to grow food and how to care for it, when to grow it, what's appropriate to grow when.
And have they been, I've seen with my kids that they really love it and are so engaged. What has your experience been with your kids?
It's been very similar, and it's been amazing to see how active a role the kids want to have when they're seeing food outside, and how much easier it actually is to get them to eat good food when they can go out in the garden and pick a grape tomato off the vine. It's enticing for them. And
now what's funny that I see when we're at the grocery store, they're asking, why aren't we growing that at home? Well, can we grow that at home?
Absolutely.
They're wondering, why are we buying this when we could be making it ourselves?
Absolutely, absolutely. So as I was thinking about that, I knew that Beverly Hills happens to be an area similar to Birmingham and some of the Bloomfield areas that has a number of trees, and so there's a lot of families in the community that don't necessarily have a chance to have a garden in their yard because it's too shady.
Right, ours is in our front lawn because it's too shady in the backyard.
So my first idea was to potentially have it located at our city park. As I mentioned, we have a wonderful city park. There was some areas that I thought were underutilized and I thought would make a perfect spot. Would be highly visible so that people driving by could see what was going on and maybe spur some interest themselves. So we approached the city, and I think one of the obstacles that we were trying to overcome was just, and it wasn't necessarily a bad thing, it was just being in a community with diverse people, you also have diverse thoughts. And so some people's notions about what a city park should be aren't always the same as other people's.
Right.
And so that was one of the obstacles I think we came upon. Was we had a lot of strong support from a lot of the families. It took us from my first announcement just through emails to friends about surveying people's interest levels. I had 20 families within just a couple of weeks who had said they were interested in participating. Mm-hmm. But there was a certain level also, you know, of red tape that you have to go through. The biggest things that you need to start a community garden obviously are a place to do it.
Right.
There is money necessary.
Where did you end up finding the place to do it?
So the city park idea sort of ended up being a rather long road to sort of hoe, and we wanted to try and establish the garden so that we could have a growing season in 2011. So we ended up surveying some of the local churches, and we were fortunate enough that a church on 13 Mile and Evergreen Roads, the Beverly Hills United Methodist Church, already had a strong component to their food program that they had already run for a number of years. And so they had a strong interest. They felt it was a very good link to their food program that they already offered.
So they got it immediately and said,
Absolutely.
we've got room.
They were extremely gracious. They've been fantastic. They offered up a very large section. They have a very large sort of side lawn is situated across from Birmingham Groves High School, where we've sort of partitioned off and set up our plots.
And so how does it work if a family's interested in having a plot? What do they do?
So it's open to anyone in the community, whether they live in Beverly Hills or whether they live in one of the surrounding areas. And we have basically 40 plots, and each plot is 20 feet by 10 feet. We encourage people to use organic practices there. And the reason that we do that, we actually strongly encourage it, is number one, we feel that the founders, myself included, felt that it's just a much healthier way to grow the food. And also, when you're trying in a confined space like that, where you have different people growing food, it's often difficult if someone wanted to use pesticides or herbicides.
Without contaminating the next plot.
It would be very difficult to do that, correct.
And are there any restrictions on what people can grow, or?
They're free to go anything that's legal, of course.
Right.
We don't want any illegal crops there, but any fruit or vegetable that they desire, as long as it doesn't overly shade or grow into other plots, they're free to grow whatever they wish.
Okay, well, I want to thank you so much for coming on today. I think these are two really interesting topics for people, particularly in this area.
Thank you for having me. I enjoyed being here.
Thanks. So thank you so much for watching Elizabeth's Kind Cafe. Please stick around and check out the recipe demonstration that I have for you next. Today we're going to be making black bean quesadillas. The brown rice takes about 45 minutes to make, but after this, the whole meal takes about 5 minutes, so it's a great simple meal that's good for adults and for children. I've already made the brown rice, and then I add in 1 cup of black beans that I've already rinsed. You want to make sure you rinse them really well if they're canned, because you want to get rid of all the sodium. So I mix them together, and then I add a tablespoon and a half of cumin, and then about a tablespoon of granulated or powdered garlic, depending on how much garlic you like to eat. And then you want to mix it up really well. And then we're going to start layering. So the first layer is going to be our sour cream. And like I said, this is vegan, so this is a sour cream alternative. It's made with soy, which I like to limit. I don't eat a lot of soy because I think it should only be in small doses. It can mess up your hormones a little bit. It's a conversation for another day that you might want to research on your own, but I've decided after looking into it a little bit that for me it's best to limit soy into small portions. And so the rice I use, or the cheese that I use, is rice cheese. It's obviously not dairy and it's not soy. So it's made out of rice, it melts well, it tastes great. And when it's mixed in with dishes like this especially, it works very well. So we're gonna put the rice cheese on, and then we'll add our rice and beans. The rice and beans are both full of a lot of protein and fiber, so you're going to feel very full, and it's going to stabilize your energy level for a long time because of the protein and fiber. You won't have a high and then crash. And black beans are full of antioxidants, so they're great for being anti-inflammatory, good anti-aging food. And then we're going to fold it over and put some non-dairy butter on one side. You can do two if you like, but for me one side's enough. And I'm going to put it on the panini maker, which has already been heated. If you don't have a panini maker, you can put a little oil or butter alternative on both sides of the tortilla and put it in a frying pan just long enough to brown it. It wouldn't be more than a minute on each side. We're going to leave that in the panini maker for about 3 minutes, and then when it's done, it will look like this. So you'll want to cut it in half. It's enough for one person, or you can split one between 2 children. So I hope you enjoy this recipe. Thanks for stopping by Elizabeth's Kind Cafe, and we'll see you next time.